¿Qué onda, mi gente? Today we're going to talk about which language you should learn, Italian or Spanish, right? I've studied both of these. I've been to a lot of these countries. I've been to Italy, so I'm basically an expert is what I'm saying. Now, on the one side, we have Italian, right? Italian is a beautiful language, tons of culture. If you want to read books, if you want to read Dante's Inferno or the Divine Comedy or any other great works of literature that have come out of Italy, learn Italian. If you want to move to Italy, also learn Italian. And if you've studied Spanish or Portuguese or French or the other ones, you're gonna have a leg up. For me, the hardest part about Italian is the fact that unlike the rest of the Romance languages, where like you make plurals by adding an S to the end, right? Like in Spanish, you go from like chico to chicos, just like we go from boy to boys in English. Italian, they change the ending, right? So it's not, for example, bambino is boy, right? And it's not bambinos like in Spanish or English, but it's bambini. So that one really messes with me. But I think the biggest reason to learn Italian would be if you're going to travel there and you want to make navigation a little bit easier. If you want to read all of the literature and access all the films, because they have really good films that come out of Italy. We'll read history from the Italian side of things, right? We'll learn Italian. However, as far as like travel benefits go, not super useful as a language, right? Unlike Spanish, where Spain left its legacy all throughout Latin America, or France, which left its legacy all throughout Africa, right? And you can kind of travel through those areas with French or Spanish. Italy didn't really do that. So Italy, we get 3 countries essentially that we can visit. Italy, which that presents its own problems, which I'll get to in a second. Switzerland has an Italian-speaking region, but it's not all of Switzerland. Switzerland is divided into like Spanish, French, and German-speaking areas, right? And Italian is the least one spoken. And then there's like San Marino and the Vatican, right? Which are little tiny cities, essentially. And for me, the biggest problem when it comes to learning Italian is the fact that you have dozens and dozens of local dialects, right? So it's not like you learn Italian and then you can go anywhere and you're gonna understand everything, right? Now, they're gonna understand you. If you learn just like basic standard Italian, whether you're up in Milan in the north or you're down in Sicily in the south, you're gonna be able to speak your normal standard Italian and they're gonna understand you, right? But especially in the south, right? So if you're up in the north, you're probably gonna understand most people if you speak Italian, just normal Italian. If you go down south, when you get into Naples, when you get into Sicily, they have their own regional dialects that are going to make it quite difficult for you to understand, right? For example, there was one time when I was in Italy, I was in Rome, and I was sat at a cafe next to these 2 people who were talking. And while my Italian is in no way perfect, it's not anywhere near the level of my Spanish. It's not, I definitely think I speak French better, right? I could not understand a single word they were saying, even though my Italian is good enough to kind of pick up the general gist of the conversation most of the time and follow along, right? You're gonna lose me with some words, but I'll struggle through the conversation. Them, I understood absolutely zero. And when I asked them, they told me that they were speaking Napolitano, so Italian specifically from the area of Naples, which is a little bit farther south from where Rome is. And that's when I started to investigate like Italian and I learned a little bit more about the dialects. And I realized that because when Rome was an empire, they had little city-states, right? They all kind of developed their own little dialect. And that has continued to this day, where they speak like diglossic, right? Which is where you have 2 variants of the same language and you kind of code switch, which is switching back and forth, right? Like code switch is a cool thing. It can be from one language to another, or in this case, it's like one dialect with like school or like tourists, and then another dialect with the friends and family and people around town. Now, on the other hand, Spanish is a great language to learn if you want to travel. You've got 18 countries you can go visit all over Latin America, with the exception of Brazil, which we'll get to that in another video, but you will need to learn Portuguese if you want to go there. And then you have, as well, you can kind of navigate even the Philippines. The Philippines was like an outpost of Spain a long time ago. And so you can kind of get around a little bit with between Spanish and English if you don't want to learn Filipino. You also have Spain, of course. And you have even parts of like the north of Africa. Like if you go to Algeria, Tunisia, specifically Morocco, you can get away with a little bit of Spanish in the north. It's also a really great language to learn if you want job opportunities, right? Especially if you live in the US or Canada, where there's a huge population of Latino immigrants. It's really useful for job prospects. And last but not least, the reason you could learn Spanish is just to integrate with that huge Latino community that is present in the United States. I've gotten the chance to do this all over the US. I've been to Miami and played dominoes with Cubans at the park and along Calle Ocho. I was able to hang out and talk to all of the people who come up and work, the ski instructors and things like that in the mountains of Colorado, right? Been all over the place, and you can go to church services where they're speaking Spanish, you can go to markets where they're speaking Spanish. Spanish in the US is a huge language. It's also super easy to practice, right? Versus Italian, if you want to learn Italian, you're gonna definitely need a teacher. You're definitely gonna need to find some kind of like book club or meetup or something, some way where you can specifically go and practice Italian, because you're not gonna be able to go find it like on the day-to-day, walking around the street and just living your daily life. And then of course, they also have tons of literature. They have 18 countries to choose from. You have tons of Spanish language authors who are amazing, whose books I hopefully will be reading as we wrap up the year. I wanna get into a couple of Isabel Allende books and Garcia Marquez as well. So to wrap it up, Italian, really good if you wanna read Italian literature or if you wanna visit Italy or Switzerland for that ski vacation. But that's kind of pretty limited, right? Versus Spanish, you get job benefits, you get travel benefits, you get to be able to make tons of new friends in the like Latino community in the US, as well as literature, movies. Mexico specifically has produced tons of cinema, movies, TV shows. If you're a fan of telenovelas, also you'll be able to watch that. They have tons of music that is becoming very popular in the US, so you'll be able to understand all of those reggaeton songs and all the corrido songs that have become quite popular in the past few years. If you like this video, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and leave in the comments down below what you think. Is Italian better? Is Spanish better? Is another language better? And also let me know what video I should do comparing languages next. Spanish with what language? Okay. Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you in the next video.